When I was reviewing your video, you were the officer that ran and called in everybody that was on the pier's name, first of all, to see if they had any prohibitors why they couldn't carry a firearm, right?
Objection to form.
I ran the firearms.
You ran the firearms. You didn't run the people's names.
No, sir.
Okay. Did you ever find out what the result of the officer who did run the people's names were?
I believe everything, yes, everything came out okay.
Okay. None of them were prohibited from having a firearm?
From my recollection, no.
Okay. There was one phrase I heard on some of the radio traffic that one of them was an underpass.
Underpass?
That was the language that was used. Do you know what that phrase means?
I'm not mistaken, does that mean they have a misdemeanor pass?
Okay. They have a misdemeanor pass.
Passed, yes.
Okay. And that's, y'all refer to that as an underpass.
Yeah.
Okay. As opposed to what, a felony's an overpass?
Over, yes.
Do you remember which individual had the underpass?
Can't remember, sir.
I say weapon, I don't mean firearm.
Mm-hmm.
If I say firearm, I mean firearm, not any other weapon. There were 6 individuals y'all detained that day, right?
From my recollection, yes.
Okay. 5 of them had firearms.
Can't remember how many firearms. I believe it was 6.
Okay. You believe,
to the top of my
that's okay.
knowledge, I can't remember.
You, as you see here today, you believe all 6 of them had firearms, but you're not sure.
I believe one of them didn't have one.
Okay. So do you agree and do you remember for certain that there were 6 individuals on the pier that y'all detained, plus a media person?
Objection to form.
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember that of the 6 individuals you detained, 5 were handcuffed, 4 were handcuffed, 2 were not?
I believe so. I can't.
Do you recall that of the 6 people you detained, 1 did not have any firearms?
To my recollection, I can't remember 100%.
Did the park ranger tell you that the gentleman on the pier had offered to show him the Florida statute regarding the right to open carry while fishing?
Like I said, I can't remember most of the statement exchange with the park ranger to this day.
That's okay. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions about what the park ranger told you, and I can't remember is a fine answer. Other than the fact that these men were where they were with firearms, do you remember any other information you possessed at that time that gave you an increased level of concern beyond the fact they were A, armed, and B, where their location was?
Like I said, our statement, the only thing I can remember, like I repeated from the statement of the park ranger,
Go ahead.
and just like you said, that there were men on the pier that weren't complying, and that's all I can remember out of our statements. I know more was said, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
Okay. I'm getting away from just what the park ranger told you, so I'm going to ask the question in a different way so that we're clear that I'm not just asking about what the park ranger did or didn't tell you or what you do or don't remember about what the park ranger told you. I'm now asking Officer Michael Garcia, when you walked out onto that pier, you were concerned enough that you drew your weapon, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes, sir.
That concern was based on, as I understand it, the fact that these men were armed, the fact that they were on South Point Pier, right? Other than those 2 factors, and I will add, and the park ranger had told you something to the effect of they were not complying, other than those 3 factors, did you have any other knowledge or information when you drew your gun that gave you an increased concern about these men?
Objection to form.
Pretty much what's running in my mind for that time, if you're asking in my part.
Yes, sir.
Being like I stated, with the Parkland shooting and all the shootings that happened, I also thought we were dealing with what we call sovereign citizens.
Okay. But that's not information you had, that's a thought that was going through your head.
Objection to form.
Correct?
Through all, pretty much all, not only me, the fellow officers, but,
Okay.
but if you're speaking in my, yes, that was what was going through my mind.
We're just talking about you right now.
Yeah, that was what was going through my mind.
Okay. But you didn't have, did you have any specific information that these gentlemen were sovereign citizens?
We had no information, no.
Okay. So again, not what was going through your head, but what specific knowledge and information you had when you drew your gun. You knew that the park ranger had told you they were not complying. in some manner, some way. You knew that they were carrying firearms, and you knew they were on South Point Pier.
Yes.
Did you have any other knowledge or information that caused you concern beyond those three factors?
Objection to form.
If
Form.
Go ahead, you can answer.
from my recollection, like I said, I'm not 100% sure like the information. The other information that I remember from dispatch was that I believe came from the park ranger that I'm starting to remember now. Is it, I'm not 100% sure that when I guess park ranger gave out the information to dispatch, it was of men with firearms casing the bridge.
Okay. Can you describe what, and you said casing the bridge, it's not a bridge, it's a pier.
That's what they mentioned.
I understand.
The way we interpret it, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I understand there's several points on the video where I hear the term bridge, but when
Pier.
we're talking about a pier, right?
Pier, sorry.
Not a bridge.
I'm sorry. Pier.
All right. But it may have come in as casing the bridge, but when you heard casing the bridge, you understood that
pier.
meant the pier.
Like I said, I'm not 100% sure of how it came out, but I do remember hearing of 6 men casing either the bridge or pier. I can't remember what was mentioned.
Okay.
But this came from the park ranger to dispatch, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. When you hear the term casing, what does that mean?
Usually the way we perceive that is people walking the area or lording the area.
Walking or
Or
loitering
canvassing
in
the
the area.
area.
For what? Walking or loitering in the area for
or-
what purpose is casing?
The way we interpret to commit a crime.
Okay. So you believed that, or you received information somehow, some way, not sure exactly how it got to you, that led you to believe these men might be casing the pier.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And if you heard casing the bridge, you would have assumed they meant also the pier.
The pier.
A lot of people walk or loiter on the South Point Pier, don't they?
Yes, sir.
Objection to form. A little delayed.
That's all right. Can you describe what you define as loitering, sir?
Loitering is someone that's canvassing an area, all right, walking in an area. Some may say that it looks suspicious, you know, person's demeanor, behavior. Usually in an area, you know, depending on what they're doing. There can be many, you know.
Would you consider a person on a fishing pier with a line from a fishing pole in the water to be loitering on the pier?
Objection to form.
No.
Okay. Is there a way to get your cars down that sidewalk to closer to the pier?
There is, very difficult,
Okay.
but there is.
Okay. How is it difficult?
Then the space is narrow. And then with the sidewalks being narrow, you don't want your car to fall because there is a cliff and there are rocks on the other side. And also the volume of people.
So it was not so urgent that you needed to drive the car to get out there faster, right?
Objection to form.
Didn't come out as an emergency call.
Okay. It was not an emergency call.
That's not the way.
Did all four of you draw your firearms?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, when y'all were talking with the park ranger, where were your vehicles at that time?
If I'm not mistaken, they were in the beginning of the park.
Okay.
At the end of the park, but the beginning of the park where you start to walk.
Okay. Do you know if at the time you left your vehicle, you knew you were about to go encounter armed subjects?
Yes, sir.
You knew it then?
From the way the call came out.
Were you thinking at that point already, were you thinking this could be a terrorist situation?
A lot of things run through your head.
Were you thinking this could be an active shooter situation?
Could be, yes.
I'm asking what you were thinking
Yes,
right
yes,
then.
yes.
Were you wearing any type of body armor?
To my recollection, no.
Do you normally wear body armor when you're on duty?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Do you know if the Miami Beach Police Department has a policy about whether or not you must wear body armor?
It's optional.
Did you have your body armor in your vehicle?
Yes.
Do you always you had your body armor in your vehicle that day?
To my recollection.
Okay. Do you know, if you were so concerned that this could be a terrorist or active shooter situation, why did you not go grab that body armor and put it on before going out on the pier?
Can't remember at this time. I didn't even come up the thought.
You didn't even think about going and getting the body armor?
Nope. I just thought about responding to the call, sir.
Okay. Do you think about going and getting your patrol rifle?
Like I said, I don't remember if I had it with me or not.
Would it be fair to say that, generally speaking, if you're going into what you consider to be a high-risk active shooter or terrorist situation, you would most likely want to grab your body armor and your patrol rifle out of your vehicle?
Objection to form.
Yes, but you also have to look at the total circumstances, time, life. So, you're not going to waste time.
Was there any reports that were given to you at the time you left your car that anybody's life was being threatened?
At the time, no.
Was there any report that you had received that somebody was pointing a gun at somebody?
Never came up, no.
Was there any report or information you had that anybody was threatening somebody else?
No.
Did you receive any report that you would have considered to be an exigent circumstance that would have avoided the need for a warrant to search wherever you were headed?
Objection to form.
Rephrase the question again. I'm sorry.
You know what an exigent?
Yeah, I know what it is.
You know what an exigent circumstance is?
Yes.
You know that you can go into certain places like somebody's house under exigent circumstances without a warrant
Yes.
when there's exigent circumstances, but you need a warrant when there's not exigent circumstances.
Yes.
Okay, you understand all that.
Yes.
Were you aware of any exigence when you left your car that day? Were you aware of any exigent circumstance that required you to get on that pier right now?
Objection to form.
Men with firearms.
Okay.
Just
so
with the information we had.
that's good. So men with firearms in and of itself is an exigent circumstance to your understanding.
It's the location also. It takes a play.
Sure. Men with firearms on the South Point Pier is in your mind an exigent circumstance.
At the time being, with families in the park and beachgoers, that was
So when you and the other three officers approached the subjects, y'all drew your guns. Did you point your gun at any individuals?
believe so, but I can't remember which one.
Did you hear between the four of you officers any conflicting commands issued to the men y'all were pointing
A
guns
lot
at?
of things were yelled, so I can't remember off the top of my knowledge. I know it was put your hands up, don't reach for the firearm, those commands.
Did you hear either yourself or another officer tell them to put their hands down?
I do remember that one of the individuals had an object in his hand, which ended up being a cell phone.
Okay.
So probably that could have been the confusion or miscommunication. I can't remember if it was me or another officer, I'm being honest.
That's all. But in your review of the video, you heard conflicting commands issued to the subjects that you were
Yes,
pointing
sir.
guns at.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Would you agree that issuing conflicting commands between the officers is a good way for a subject complying with one officer to be shot by another officer?
Objection to form.
Not if they're complying, but
Who are
repeat
they
that.
supposed to comply with, Officer Garcia?
officers.
Objection to form.
Are they supposed to comply with multiple officers at once?
Objection
Issuing
to form.
conflicting commands?
Once again,
Let me object in the middle. Don't
Yeah.
sorry
jump on
about
the
that.
question.
I'm sorry.
Are they supposed to comply with two different, discrete, opposing commands at the same time?
Objection to form.
It can be confusing.
The answer is no, they can't.
Objection
Right.
to form.
At the end of the day, it can be confusing when you're given multiple commands from multiple officers. Mm-hmm. So it can confuse the subject.
So the officers really need to be on the same page as to what commands they're going to issue, don't they?
Objection to form.
Correct.
And y'all, at least for that moment, weren't on the same page, were you?
Objection
can-
to form.
You can
can't
say that.
Okay.
The heat of the moment.
You were pointing guns at these individuals. You and the other officers worked together to disarm them and to put them in handcuffs, right?
Yes, sir.
Of the 5 people out there at that time, you handcuffed 4 of them, right?
I believe so.
Do you remember which individuals you specifically handcuffed?
I remember I approached one individual, thin build. I can't remember their exact name.
Okay.
and then I approached a heavyset individual.
Do you remember the thin build guy you approached first? Do you remember that might have been the one that you might could describe him as the more mouthy of the group?
That's a very nice way. Of
No, I didn't approach I do remember the one that was talking, but no, I didn't approach him.
All right. This is what I believe to be your body cam, officer. Do you know what that 4399 might mean?
No, sir.
Okay.
I believe either that's the camera number. Like I said, don't quote me. I'm not 100% sure.
I got you. Well, I'm going to back it up just a little bit, and let's see if we can still identify that we think this is you with file 1077. Oh. And see if this is. If we're going to watch this and see if it's. Here, I'm going to scoot it over
Just
closer
the glare,
to you.
so I can give you the right information.
All right. You see that okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. So we see Officer Villamil come up on your left here in just a second, right?
Right there.
Okay. So does that help refresh your recollection if this is you with your gun at this point?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that is you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we know that body cam 1077 is you now. So let's go on up here. So y'all are directing them to do what at this point?
Put their hands up and don't go for the firearms.
Okay. And I am not playing the audio right now. I'm just. Okay. So is that Officer Villamil
Officer Villamil, yes.
handcuffing that gentleman?
Mm-hmm.
And is that you working on this gentleman?
Yes, sir.
Okay.